Hello everyone, it's Roktan, and I am the ultimate copycat. And this video is being done in a response to someone who asked, can you teach me how to do the vocals in one of my covers and impression videos that I do for songs? And they were specifically referring to do harsh and extreme metal vocals. And I just wanted to be forward and say that I am not a vocal coach. There are vocal coaches on YouTube that you would probably be better off listening to. However, from listening to the things they've talked about and using a little bit of and using my own experience, I can do my best to explain the mechanics of the techniques that will be employed when doing these. So, to start with, to get your basic distortion, and this is on the low end, what you want to start with is a sigh. And when I talk about sigh, I don't mean going, that's kind of what you're going for, but not really. What I'm talking about is like that really annoyed, frustrated, exasperated type of sigh, where you go, that's the kind of sigh you want to do. And what you want to start, how you want to start is practice holding that sigh. That's kind of your basis for low end growls and or even like mid high screams is going to be, which what they call is, and that's what they call false chord. All these different type of vocals are using what's called the false chords. It's based on the fact that when you talk or sing, the main vocal folds that are deep inside your throat it kind of looks a little bit like a zipper, a little bit. It's these two little spongy pieces of tissue that vibrate and kind of zip up and down, open slightly a little bit as you're talking and singing. Now, the false chords are what is the technical term, I believe, is called the ventricular folds. I may be wrong on that. Are a series of folds above that. I don't know. I don't understand why they call them the false folds. I'm not quite sure why they call them that, but they do. And that's where you're getting that distorted sound. And you can also add distortion on top of singing as well. Now, the second type of distortion, what that you want to go for is what's typically called fry. And that's when you drop your voice completely out and you get this sort of bubbly sound. So you get that's fry. And just to let you know, fry screams tend to be a lot easier to do than lower or even lower false chord growls, or sometimes even mid highs, because you tend to be losing a lot less air. For what reason, I'm not really sure. You just are. I think it's just more because you're not having with that you're having to use you just are pushing more air through. You just are. And when you're going, that's, you're using barely, you don't even really have to breathe for that. You don't even really have to take a breath for that to start it, like you would do for a low end. And the next thing you want to do is do what's called a glottal onset. That means you want to attack the note, or another term I've heard or describing it is you want to punch. You want to punch through it and attack. Now, a little interesting thing about doing distorted vocals is when you're doing them properly, you still are hitting a tone and a note behind all of it. So, but just to give you an example of a glottal onset, that's like when, say, you sing, and what's called when you belt, when you want to sing something very loud, and you want to start by attacking the note right off. So you get that's a glottal onset. So you want to do that, and you want to really thicken up the distortion and add a bit more oomph and volume, but you don't really have to do it you don't have to push as much as you might think. And next is the other key is mouth shape and your tongue. So for your low growl, you add all the stuff that I just talked about, and you're gonna get and then for like a mid high, you might go I'm not really pushing that much, and it's not. And if you're doing this correctly, it will not hurt your throat. It shouldn't. A little technique that's going to help you learn how to do this correctly is you want to cup your hand to your ear and kind of go like this. So what you're doing is you're directing the sound up to your ear, and it's going to sound louder in your ear through that. But that's going to help you in getting the sound you want. Another quick before I go to fry screams is there's another technique you'll want to try to do when you're learning how to do this, and this is a key thing that's going to help you in terms of knowing that you're doing it correctly without hurting yourself, and that's attempting to do the sounds with your mouth closed. And there's actually a term for it. It's called there's an acronym, SOVT. It means subcluded ocular vocal tract. I don't exactly know why, but it just is something like that. So, and if you have a straw, this will help, and straws actually help you when you're learning just to sing as well. So you want to try to do the vocals by having your mouth closed. Sorry, I had some gas. That's an SOVT exercise. Now, fry screams, you do that. Now, take those techniques that I talked about, thickening it up, pushing a bit more, attack. again, now, just a little, again, there is a note behind it, believe it or not, the distortion. Isn't that weird? There is still a note in, but the note doesn't quite as matter. It does to an extent because it does help you get the pitch high, the sound of the screen gets higher from what note you're hitting behind it, but that's not as important, really, not quite as important as mouth shape and tongue position is. And what I mean by that is this. Now, for your low growls, what you want to typically do is round your roll out like this to get that deep sort of almost guttural, what they call the guttural sound is. So you get that's, and then to get a different sound, you want to kind of curl your tongue upward in your mouth, kind of like that. And then you get this. And by the way, just to give you so again with the low growls, an example of the note doesn't matter as much as the shape of what you're doing with your mouth. Now, add your tongue, like I just showed you, and you get. And now with fries, you get. Now, the trickiest type of vocals you're going to learn, and it's probably going to take the longest, are in terms of the techniques I use, that's used for the really crazy stuff, is whistle fry and deathcore style. Now, whistle fry, man, that's something that's really hard to explain for me. I just kind of figured it out. In fact, I had a sort of different method of doing it in the past that suddenly I couldn't do it the same way anymore and had to develop a different method of doing it, and had to adjust that method as well to really hone it in on what I was doing. But part of it is still kind of on a similar basis to what I was doing before, and that's to start with a fry again, and try to kind of constrict your vocals and get a squeaky sound. Kind of like that. You want to really tighten and constrict. Now, the second step, I can't even begin to tell you. It's just, you really have to kind of anchor down and push really. You're going to need a lot of air and quite a lot more volume than you would with the other stuff that I was showing you. So then you get. That's your whistle fry. Then, deathcore. The best way to start explaining this is if you can figure out how to do throat singing. There's another term for that. Let me see if I can... Or it's also called overtone singing. That's what I was thinking of. And the key is to making this noise. That's overtone. And you're going to try to add that to the distortion. And this is going to take a while to hone in on. It took a long time for me to get it. I just finally figured it out. And by the way, a little tip, try not to push yourself too hard. If you start feeling pain or like you're coughing, stop. Because then you're going to really hurt yourself. And because this is, when you're doing this, if you're not doing it correctly, you're going to damage your throat. So, for deathcore style, the fries are a better place to start for doing this. And you will kind of, and this is, you want to do that throat singing, but you also want to thicken up the distortion and add just more saliva to it if you can. And you want to kind of go for this sound. Another thing that's going to help is, yes, singing your tongue. Yes, it will help you get that sound. And again, you'll need to get that. And then for your lows, once again, you'll want to stick your tongue out. And another thing that'll help is to get certain sounds is to stick your tongue through your teeth. That's what they, which is why they call that the butthole lips. And that's pretty much about it. That's the best way I can teach how to do this and describe the techniques. I hope this helped. Thanks for watching, and good luck to you. This has been Roktan signing off. Slick out.